Two senior moderates are banned from standing in Iran's presidential election. The way seemingly clear now for a candidate backed by the top clerics. Where do reformers go now after the violent crackdown that followed their protests last time there was an election? And what role did Iran's conservative leaders play behind the scenes? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme with me, David Foster. Iran's powerful Guardian Council has disqualified two of the biggest names in Iranian politics from running in next month's election. Only 8 of the 686 people who registered as candidates were cleared to stand. Well, the decision is a setback for reformists in Iran, though not entirely unexpected. Iran's next president will now almost certainly be a conservative, loyal to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So, as I said, two big players in Iranian politics have been taken out of the race. The first, Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, is a veteran leader in the Islamic Republic and served as president between 1989 and 1997. He was seen as a candidate who sympathised with the pro-reform movement and could mobilise their vote. No official explanation was given for his disqualification, but a spokesman for the Guardian Council suggested that Rafsanjani, who is 78, wouldn't be able to keep up with the demands of the presidency. Also disqualified is Fandia Rahim Mashai, who is a close ally of the outgoing President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Critics of Mashai have questioned his loyalty to the supreme leader and say he undermines Iran's Islamic system. Mashai says he will fight the Guardian Council's decision to disqualify him, which he called unfair. Well, the 8 candidates who've been approved are close to Iran's ruling clerics. They include Saeed Jalili, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council and Iran's main nuclear negotiator. Then there's Hassan Rouhani, a Shia cleric and former nuclear negotiator. He was Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. Ali Akbar Veliati was the foreign minister from 1981 to 1997 and is now an international affairs advisor to the supreme leader. And Mohammed Bakr Khalibaf, a former military and police commander who is now the mayor of Tehran. Well, joining us now from Tehran, Sadegh Zibakalam, Professor of Political Science at Tehran University. Also in Tehran, Ganbar Naderi, an Iranian journalist. And from London, Kelly Golnoush Niknejad, founder and editor-in-chief of TehranBureau.com, which is an online news magazine. Welcome to all three of you. Sadegh, if I could go to you first of all. Excluding these two and only allowing in candidates who seem to be pretty loyal to the Iranian clerics, is this Ali Khamenei cementing his grip on power?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Of course, we must bear in mind that there are still 2 candidates left who are not exactly in Ayatollah Khamenei, the Iranian supreme leader's wing. Dr. Hassan Rouhani, who is a clergy and is very close to Mr. Hashemi Rafsanjani, and also Dr. Mohammad Reza Aref, who is a well-known reformist. He has been working, he has been working both with Mr. Rafsanjani when he was president, and also with Mr. Khatami when he was president. So in theory, at least, there are 2 other non-principalist, non-hardliners left in the race.
So it's not a given that Saeed Jalili will be the next president of Iran, in your opinion?
Well, no, by no means you could conclude that Saeed Jalili would be the next Iranian president. I think the conservatives, they are still battling, if you like, amongst themselves, because some of them favor Ali Akbar Velayati, and some of them favor Saeed Jalili. We mustn't forget that Tehran Mayor Ghalibaf is there. He is very popular. He has done a magnificent job as a Tehran mayor. So he also stands a very good chance. And he's also posing serious threat to both Jalili and Velayati.
Gambar Naderi, let me come to you on this one. What is the sense in excluding somebody like Rafsanjani, who has immense experience already as president?
I think it is not the proper word to use, excluding. This has nothing to do with excluding or a politicization of the vetting process at the Guardian Council. It's all about rules and regulations and the Iranian constitution. We have certain rules and regulations, and if you want to live in this country or if you want to succeed in any given career, you should adhere to them. In this case, we have election law. The election law says that those who are above 75 years of age are not qualified to run for president.
But my researchers in Tehran, people working for this program, respected news organizations say, yes, it was put forward by Parliament, the age limit ban, but it was kicked out by the Guardian Council. There is no legal limit.
No, I'm afraid the Guardian Council, actually, we have to keep in mind that the Guardian Council is chosen by the Parliament and the leadership. We have 6 by the leader and 6 by the Parliament. So this constitutional body has to adhere to the law and the Constitution if it wants to continue to exist.
So you still stand by your statement that there is a law capping the age limit for presidential candidates, when my advice is that there is not.
With what I know in this country, there is election law that says there is, if one of the hopefuls, one of the presidential hopefuls is not physically fit to run the country for 4 years, he shouldn't enter the race.
But that's a very different matter. A very different matter. Surely the real reason is that the establishment, the clerical establishment, is frightened of somebody like Rafsanjani.
It is not the case. Rafsanjani is one of the pillars of this revolution. He is the right hand. He is always on the right hand side of the leader at any given ceremony or occasion. So it is wrong to assume that he has distanced himself from the revolution or the leadership. There are basic,
but he has changed his attitude. He has softened. He has become more of a reformer.
Yes.
He is regarded now as a moderate, and the clerics don't get on with him.
But that's besides the point. There are very important and serious fundamental differences between the leadership and Rafsanjani and other principalist groups and factions. The leader has made it absolutely clear that there are differences between these two, but he also made it also clear that Rafsanjani is one of the pillars of the revolution, has been and still is, and he has a lot of respect for this man. But I mean, it was wrong on the part of the Rafsanjani to sign up for the race, because we all know we shouldn't fall into the trap of politicizing the matter that he is almost 80 years of age. He is not physically fit to continue the race for even 10 days of the campaigns in the next couple of weeks.
Let me move on to Kelly Golnoush and ask about the other major candidate who's been barred from running, Mr. Mashai, who's Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's man in so many ways. Why do you think he was not allowed to run for the presidency?
I think Mr. Mashai's disqualification was expected. He's been long branded one of the leaders of a deviant current in the Islamic Republic who's trying to undermine the whole system. So that wasn't too much of a surprise. And it's no secret that Mr. Ahmadinejad and Mr. Khamenei have fallen out since the last presidential election in 2009.
So what do you make of Mr. Ahmadinejad's statement a short while ago saying, look, I'm going to sit down with the Ayatollah Khamenei and we're going to sort this out, and Mr. Mashai is going to be able to run as a president. We'll just sort this out between two sensible, reasonable people. Given their history, that's unlikely, isn't it?
It does seem very unlikely at this point. Unless there's something we don't know that's going on behind the scenes, if they can strike a deal, then I guess it'll be pretty clear pretty soon.
Is it your sense that Mr. Ahmadinejad wanted Mr. Mashai to run for the presidency and, in his opinion, get the presidency so that he could keep the seat warm for 4 years for Mr. Ahmadinejad to do what many people have described as a Putin, you know, go away for 4 years and then come back again?
I think yes, that term has been used a lot to describe what's been going on, the dynamic between Mr. Ahmadinejad and Mr. Mashai. What seems to be going on for them is a power struggle, and this is one way of trying to maintain power in one of the centers of the establishment.
Sadegzi Bakalam, let me come to you. I mean, when it comes to a man scorned such as Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who said, look, if I don't get my way, if my man can't run, then I'm going to let a lot of cats out of the bag. I am going to wash some dirty laundry. These are not my expressions. Other people have put them this way. In other words, let a lot of secrets out in public. What do you think he's got?
Well, this has been the question that that millions of Iranians have been guessing all along, that my understanding, as well as many other Iranian understanding, is that Ahmadinejad would have exposed Ahmadinejad, hold secrets, document, etc., etc. So he is letting them loose as and when his man, that is Rahim Mashai, would be disqualified. But so far, during the past 24 hours, Ahmadinejad appears to be holding his horses, and in a sense, he is trying to reach a deal with the supreme leader. In other words, he is trying to behave in such a way as though that, well, look, let him come in, or else this has been his attitude. In other words, he's still bluffing, he's still threatening, and he hasn't taken any serious action.
And
so
people
far
are sort of mocking him in many ways, because when he did try to do something along these lines, which was air some sort of rather grainy, inconclusive pictures of a senior member of the Larijani family, everybody said, look, I'm sorry, but this is a fake, this isn't true, and it sort of backfired on him, it appeared.
Well, no, I must, David, I must disagree with you, because he actually caused a lot of damage on Larijani's household. My understanding is that Ali Larijani was seriously contemplating to run as a candidate, and since that episode, since that scenario, since that inconclusive film, call it what you like, it actually inflicted a lot of damage on Larijani, to the extent that he actually decided not to run. And may I also add one comment on what Qambar was saying. First of all, we do not have any rule as far as the age is concerned. So saying that Rafsanjani is 80 or 79 actually is there's no law. There's nothing against it. And second, it is true that the Guardian Council has been empowered to vet the candidate, but it's within the law. In other words, if the Guardian Council disqualifies Rafsanjani or Rahim Mashai or anyone else, it must be within the threshold of the law, and the Guardian Council cannot willingly or politically refuse any candidate.
You mentioned the Guardian Council there, Sadegh. I'm just going to run through some background on it and why it's so important in the Islamic Republic. It is an appointed 12-member council that has a great deal of power and influence in the country. 6 members, as we've already heard, must be experts in Islamic law. All of them are selected by the supreme leader, and their job to interpret the constitution, supervise elections, approve candidates for different political bodies, including the presidency. And the Guardian Council also has veto power over all legislation. Let me go to Qambar Naderi now and ask you what sort of Iran we would see if Saeed Jalili became president, because of his expertise in nuclear negotiations. And of course that causes a great deal of controversy in many areas.
Well, that's a very good question, because this is all about actually what the country wants to decide for the next 4 years. Those who are in power, the officials, the people, especially the people, want to move forward. If they voted, if they choose for people like Rafsanjani, they will have to go backward to at least 20 years ago, and they don't want that.
Jalili?
If they vote for people like
Mr. Jalili and his nuclear credentials?
I will get there. I will get there.
It's not a long
I will
program,
get to that
sir.
point. If they vote, Yes, yes. If they want to choose Jalili, I think he's the best possible candidate at the moment, because what people are interested in is not a person like Ghalibaf to build new roads or parks or, I don't know, amusement or leisure centers. They don't want that. They have everything they want here. What they want is someone to be able to talk to the West, to communicate with the West, and to resolve all the outstanding issues with regard to Iran's nuclear program and many other regional matters in this respect. I think Jalili is the best possible candidate at this point. He is not a perfect candidate. We don't have any perfect candidate in this round of elections, but he is still standing a head and shoulder above others. I think he has what it takes to take the country, to run the country for the next 4 years, and he has what it takes, with what we have seen in the past, to somehow to make some kind of compromises with the West in order to ease or lift the Western sanctions on Iran and also resolve the nuclear dispute. Saeed Jalili is the only person who doesn't have any kind of enemies in this country, as far as I am concerned, because he has always tried to keep a low profile until this very point in time.
Mr. Daderi, you were looking back a little bit. Allow me to do the same for just a moment. Iran's clerical leadership wants to stop any chance of the protests that took place in 2009 after the elections then from happening again. The so-called Green Movement swept through Iran after the 2009 presidential elections, the protesters demanding the removal of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad after he was re-elected in what they said were fraudulent elections. They were met with a brutal crackdown by security forces. One young woman, Neda Agha Sultan, became a figurehead of the movement. She was killed with a bullet to the heart after getting caught up in a protest on her way home. Her death reported worldwide, and her image becoming a symbol of resistance both in and outside Iran. Mir Hossein Mousavi and other leaders of the Green Movement, we see him here, have been under house arrest for more than 2 years. Let's bring in Kelly Gulnoush on this subject. What happened to the protest?
They had 4 years to suppress it, so it's gone underground, and to some extent it's dissipated or changed form.
Sadegh, let me come to you. Has life changed in any way for the better for the Iranian people in the last 4 years? Let's go back 8 years of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's term as president. Do they feel better off?
Well, the point is that I just wanted to respond to what Ghambar was saying from Tehran. It's not a question of Jalili being able to do this or that. First of all, Jalili has been negotiating nearly 3 or 4 years with 5+1 without any achievement. And we don't know how many more years will it take for Jalili to make any progress. All that we have observed, all that we have seen from Jalili has been putting more sanctions against Iran. So he hasn't been able to move forward as far as Iran nuclear program is concerned. And also, I must disagree with Ghambar, because it's not only the nuclear issue, it's not only the Iranian relation with the world that has been enormously damaged during the past 8 years. Economy has been damaged. Politically, there has been a lot of damage. Socially, there has been a lot of damage. So the new president has had a huge task ahead of him, whoever he is.
How do you notice it in many ways, daily routine?
In many ways, the
how do you notice it in the daily routine that you're not as well off as you were 8 years ago? Just give us an idea of how things have deteriorated in your opinion.
Well, for example, we have a rampant inflation during the past 2 or 3 years, and the conservatives have been only blaming themselves. Opponents of Ahmadinejad are blaming Ahmadinejad mismanagement. Ahmadinejad is blaming the sanctions. But at the end of the day, David, is the ordinary Iranian who have been suffering tremendously because of the economical hardship, unemployment, etc., etc.
And will this only change if whoever comes to power manages to get the sanctions lifted, or is there some other magic wand that can be waved?
Well, obviously, whoever becomes Iranian president in in the election, as I said, he has a huge task ahead of him, because unless there is an understanding, unless there is no serious drive towards resolving Iranian deadlock as far as the nuclear program is concerned, the sanctions would only create more and more economic hardship and economic problems for
okay, so
Iranians.
Khamenei, if Saeed Jalili comes in, and he has been, as Sadegh has been saying, the nuclear negotiator for a very long time now, what chance is there that he, in his new role, if he becomes president, will get any closer to getting the sanctions lifted?
Well, the negotiations sometimes happen behind closed doors, and we don't know what kind of agreements they come to behind these closed doors. So we cannot say for sure that the negotiations have failed over the past 4 years. Yes, this process has been politicized by the West, and we cannot do anything about it. But the advantage that Mr. Jalili has is that he is very close to the leadership. So he might somehow talk them into some kind of negotiation or compromise during the next 4 years or so. So, I mean, he has the upper hand than many other candidates in this particular election. But it is very unfair to say that he hasn't achieved anything. The thing is that the West is now listening to Iran, and Iran is listening to the West. They have held many different rounds of talks in different parts of the world, which means that they have finally come to the conclusion. We don't know when it's going to change. It is a very long process. We have to give it time. We have no other option. We have to give it time.
Kelly, let me come to you at this stage in the programme. Kelly Golnoush, listening to what you said about the protest movement, the reformers, and the fact that their spirit may well have been suppressed, as well as seeing some of their leaders under house arrest. From the feedback you get from those people you talk to in Tehran, what do they think might happen over the next few years in terms of international isolation, in terms of monetary problems, the rampant inflation that Sadegh was talking about? Are they at all hopeful?
They weren't. I mean, I think recently with the last-minute registration of Rafsanjani and Mr. Mashai, there was all of a sudden a space created where people were hopeful that someone like Rafsanjani, who could actually save the Islamic Republic, would come, and he has the expertise, the international expertise, the economic expertise. And I think that since yesterday, everyone has just been calling it a farce election and referring to the candidates as the artificial candidates. So right now, no. And I think, if anything, Mr. Jalili coming in, one of the issues negotiators and others have had in dealing with Iran is they don't know who they're speaking to, and they don't know if the president is speaking on behalf of the supreme leader. And maybe that's what the plan is, to get someone like Mr. Jalili, who is very close to the supreme leader, to become president, to make sure that they have an absolute grip on power, so that if they make any concessions on the nuclear front, they have everything else under control. And maybe that's what's going on.
Okay, let's run through
I don't know
some
if that's something hopeful.
Yeah, well, let's run through some of the reaction we've had from Facebook. Sunday Akpori, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it, says, "I don't believe in liberal democracy where everybody's allowed to participate in electing leaders. Wisdom is rarely decided by number." Gareth Hurley says Iran is a free country. The people are free to vote for whichever hardline, right-wing candidate they choose, as long as he thinks and talks the way Ayatollahs want him to, of course. And Damien Miner adds, Ayatollah Khamenei doesn't want moderates or any close confidants of Ahmadinejad. He wants radicals and conservatives who will fully pursue the nuclear path and not negotiate with the West. That is what some of our viewers think. Thank you to all of my guests from Tehran. Sadegh Zibakalam, also from Tehran, Gamba Nadarian from London, Kelly Golnoush Nikhnejad. Kelly, apologies for the sound problems we had, but we enjoyed your contribution. Thank you too very much for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. Send us your feedback, email your thoughts to insidestory@aljazeera.net. From me, David Foster, and the rest of the Inside Story team, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. For now, goodbye.